Hello and welcome to Aviation Engineering. This aircraft was designed by Roy Chadwick as the Avro Type 696. The first test flight of the prototype happened on the 9th of March 1949. The Avro Shackleton was a British-built, long-range maritime patrol aircraft. A total of 185 Shackletons were built in the three different variants. There were three variants, the Mark I, followed by the Mark II, and then finally, at the end, we have the Mark III. All of the variants were fitted with contra-rotating propellers to counteract the torque of the engine. The aircraft that you see here is known as Pelican 1722 or Potty's private bomber. So Sergeant Major Potgieter and a couple of appies, including myself, grabbed the Haynes manual and started restoring. She was decommissioned back in 1984 and then brought back to life in 1991. The iconic aircraft as the only one flying in the world. The Mark III that you see here is one of 42. The Royal Air Force originally ordered 52 aircraft. After a review by the Defence, the total was brought down to 33 in 1956. Additionally, they also built an extra aircraft as they lost one during stall trials. The South African Air Force ordered 8 of this variant. The first two arrived on August 18th, 1957 to DF Milan Airport, Cape Town. The next two followed on the 13th October 1957, and the remainder arrived in February 1958. The aircraft received their markings and started with 1716 as J and ended at 1723 Q. These aircraft went to 35 Squadron, which operated from Easterport Air Force Base, as well as DF Milan Airport at the time, between 1957 and 1984. The aircraft were mostly used to patrol the South African coastline between the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. Around the Cape of Good Hope, they were also used to do low-level overland patrols over southern Rhodesia, but this was stopped due to concerns over the disturbance of wildlife. While in service of the South African Air Force, it was used mostly for search and rescue, as well as searching for the elusive Russian submarine. Many of the local sailors, as well from the international world, owe their lives to the Shackleton being on patrol. The aircraft being an Avro has its heritage from the Lancaster bomber, as well as the Lincoln, so the aircraft has a large bomb bay, which can hold 4,500 kilograms or 10,000 pounds of either bombs, torpedoes, or mines, as well as depth charges, be it conventional or the nuclear type. In the mid-1960s, the British attached 2 Viper engines behind engine number 1 and 4 to assist with takeoff. These modifications, however, were not done to the South African models. A proud moment in the aircraft's heritage is when it was used to bomb the Wafra, an oil tanker, off the coast of Agulhas in 1971. The Wafra had run aground and got stuck on a reef. She was refloated on the 8th of March and towed out to sea. After several attempts to sink the vessel, they finally called in the help of the Shackleton. The vessel was finally sunk on the 10th of March, with the Shackleton dropping depth charges at low level. All 3 variants were fitted with the Rolls-Royce Griffon 57A piston engine. These engines were derived from the classic Rolls-Royce Merlin, which the Spitfire and Lancasters used. The Merlin in itself was a higher revving 27-litre engine, where with the Griffon they have upsized to a 36-litre with a slower revving engine. In doing so, they almost gained 1,000 horsepower and had a more reliable engine. This in itself created the problem of having to fit longer propellers. As a go-around not to redesign the entire aircraft, a set of contra-rotating propellers were fitted, and so creating the iconic look of this aircraft. Although these aircraft were in service for 27 years, not all of them would survive. On August 7th, 1963, Shackleton 1718K was involved in a crash with a total loss of life. All 13 of her crew perished. The aircraft was due to complete exercises with the Navy and took off from Devon Airport and was on her way to Port Elizabeth. Weather in the Falsbath area was atrocious, and the crew opted to go over land. In doing so, it is suspected the aircraft encountered icing on the wings, which led to the crash. There were some minor incidents as well. As the Mark III is the only one fitted with a tricycle landing gear, there were some cases where the nose gear collapsed. Modifications were done to counteract this problem. However, this is not the end of the problems. The main spar in the wings also has a life of approximately 4,500 hours. Two of the aircraft were resparred, 1716 by the South African Air Force and 1717-0 was done in the United Kingdom. 1722P, the only flying Shackleton in the world, still had some airframe hours left and remained mothballed at 35 Squadron, while J and N were flown up to Swartkorps Air Force Base Museum. It was decided that J1716 would take part in an air show in England in 1994. So she was flown back from Air Force Base Swartkorps to Cape Town International Airport. This is where her extensive refit began. After all this, the aircraft departed Teervan Airport on her way to Farnborough in England. This aircraft will not make it and ends up crashing in the Western Sahara with no loss of life. This incident happened on July the 13th, 1994. Here's a picture of two of the survivors, Lionel Ashbury on the left and my dad, Bux Bronkhorst, on the right. This is the emblem of 35 Squadron, Shaya Monzi, meaning strike the water. This is Zulu, and I'm hoping I'm saying it right. After the crash, the guy said Shaya Nhlangu, which means strike the ground. These are the only complete airframes left in South Africa, one at a garage, one in a museum, and one at Air Force Base as the plot. The only one in the world that can still fly. So what does a Griffin sound like? I'm going to keep quiet now and let you guys listen to the roaring 10,000 horsepower.